And BBC Radio 5 live presenter Nihal Arthanayake has bizarrely chosen to reignite his own race row. Last month, he told a journalism diversity conference that an overwhelmingly white working environment at the BBC was affecting his mental health. And despite coming under widespread criticism, Nihal snapped back on social media yesterday, writing, "I saw a lack of diversity in my workplace over a long period of time. It affected me, and it was isolating and lonely. Yet all these GBBs-loving types made me to be an anti-white racist. If a single one of them think I'm going to keep quiet, then they're even more stupid." So he's raking in a lucrative salary funded by the taxpayer, and he's calling members of the public, like GB News viewers, stupid. Somewhat ironic, given that his tweet had a glaring grammatical error there, of course. Yep, spelling affected wrong. Still, though, Nihal promised that he would not be silenced. So we invited him onto the show to speak out. Of course, we have been met with silence. Funny that. But should it stay that way? Should Nihal just shut up? Let me know your thoughts. Email me gbviews@gbnews.com. Tweet me at gbnews. While you're there, go and take part in our poll. I'll bring you the results very shortly. But to debate this now, I am joined by comedian and GB News presenter Leo Kearse and social commentator Joanna Jarju. Leo, I will start with you. Should Nihal keep quiet?
Yeah, he should keep quiet. Before he keeps quiet, he should apologise for his egregious racism. He said that working amongst white people made him feel uncomfortable. Imagine if the roles were reversed and this was a white person saying they didn't feel comfortable in wherever they lived. You know, perhaps it was a formerly white place that is now predominantly ethnic minority, or if they worked with a lot of ethnic minority people and they said it made them feel uncomfortable. That person, they wouldn't just be hounded from their job. They'd be paraded in the streets. They'd be sent to jail. So it's absolutely disgusting that Nihal can behave in the most, in a way that would get somebody else condemned, and he seems to be proud of it as well. It seems to be something he's doubling down on. He doesn't see the error of his ways at all.
OK, look, I'm sure Nihal would deny that he was been egregiously racist, but I don't know, Joanna, has he been, and should he keep quiet?
Well, first of all, I don't think that Nihal should keep quiet on the subject of diversity. And when he did make his comments, we have to look at context here. He was at a diversity conference, so he was talking about what it feels like to be a minority within the BBC. Where I do think that he's gone wrong is, and I'm quite surprised as somebody who basically talks for a living, I would think that he would be a lot more careful with his words and know that something like that can get the message completely lost. But I think that there's other ways that he could have phrased it. He could have said, what it makes me feel like when I walk in, I don't see any other faces that look like me. He didn't necessarily need to reference white faces. And I think it's interesting, actually, that it was mentioned about, oh, well, if a white person said this about, brown people, that happens all the time. And if it was actually done on this program where somebody says London is like Londonistan and London is like, not British anymore, not English anymore because there's too many brown faces, a lot of people would still defend that, especially on this program. So I think it's really funny now that it's convenient that a brown person has said something similar on the reverse. Everybody's, outraged all of a sudden.
Leo, come back to that then.
Well, London used to be a white city. I mean, up until relatively recently, it was a predominantly white city, despite what the BBC's false reporting of history would have you believe. But I think it's interesting that Nihal was at a diversity conference and saying this, being racist against white people, because we all know that diversity doesn't really mean diversity. It means anti-white racism. And if we're talking about diversity in the BBC, where are the right-wing comedians? Where are the Brexiteers? These are the people who are really marginalised in society, or certainly in the BBC.
Joanna, if Nihal is taking a taxpayer-funded wage, at least partly anyway, should he be able to make comments like this, do you think? And he's a BBC employee, at least in part. Do you think that's the kind of thing that people should be doing? I mean, some people have accused him of stoking a race war.
Well, again, I'll go back to the fact that I said that it's about the context as well of where he was talking. He was talking about diversity. He didn't just wake up one day and say that, and said that all white people make him feel uncomfortable. And I'd actually take issue with the fact that he was quoted as saying uncomfortable. I'm not sure that he actually said that. He used another word.
It says it affected his mental health, he said.
Yeah, it said that it affected his mental health, but when you reference it like uncomfortable, it makes it seem as if he's saying that white people make him squirm or something. I think,
Well,
using the
it's
right
kind of
words.
saying they give him mental health issues, to be fair, Joanna. Yeah, I mean, he was kind of saying they give him mental health issues. I'm not sure that's any better, is it, really, Joanna?
Well, I mean, when you say uncomfortable, usually if somebody was to say that black people make them uncomfortable, obviously you would look at it in a different context. I think talking about his mental health being affected due to diversity is different. But anyway, I do think that when this is, flipped on its head, a lot of people defend this. If somebody had said this about black and brown people, you would all be saying, oh, well, they're playing the race card all of a sudden because Nihal has done exactly the same thing.
I think that's a little bit unfair. I think that's a little bit unfair. I think it's possible to have discussions, as we often do here on this show and at this channel, about things like diversity, about things like immigration, about things like multiculturalism, without being egregiously saying, oh, there are too many people of a certain colour in a particular country and that's damaging my mental health. I mean, I personally would find that as being beyond the pale, but I do accept the thrust of what you're saying, Joanna, there. Leo, look, should the BBC actually be looking to take action here? I always feel uncomfortable saying that anyone should lose their job over it, but I mean, should he apologise? Should the BBC apologise?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Would the BBC take action if a white person had said, "Listen, I don't like working here. There's too many people with brown skin or whatever it is." I think we know that person would be out the door pretty sharpish. So I mean, all I'm asking for is parity. All I'm asking for is for people not to be judged on the colour of their skin, but for everybody to be treated equally. I think Martin Luther King asked for that as well.
Leo, I'll sit with you and then I'll give the final word to Joanna. But Leo, if Nihal does think that a lot of the pushback here is quotes unquote, GBB's types, right? And he thinks that, basically anyone who disagrees with him, from what I can gather from his tweets, anyone who disagrees with him is a thick right-wing gammon. I can't help but wonder whether or not that BBC presenter has just insulted the vast majority of the country, because that does seem to be the amount of people who have the views that are pushing back on him here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he's really displaying his own prejudice there, which is what, he should have been talking about at the diversity conference. He should have been talking about how GBBs or whatever he wants to, whatever pejorative term he wants to describe the wonderful viewers of the channel as, he should be talking about how they're discriminated against. And with regards to the comparison to London, saying, some people say, well, London's changed. London has changed. Nihal is complaining that something hasn't changed enough for his liking. It's like me going to Sri Lanka and saying, well, you haven't imported thousands and hundreds of thousands of white people to make me feel comfortable. So that's the difference. London has changed. Nihal is complaining that somewhere hasn't changed.
All right, Joanna, do you think Nihal should continue to double down on this? Because that is the way he's going at the moment.
I think that Nihal should continue talking about diversity, but I think that he should be very careful, offending other people. I do think that sometimes it goes both ways. But the thing that I'm uncomfortable with is that I feel like when other people say stuff about black and brown people and people have a problem with it and they're offended, they say, oh, you're playing the race card. All of a sudden, because Nihal said it, everyone's up in arms that I feel like usually defends this thing. I think we should all respect each other from both sides, and that's the way that we should live. But it's just a shame that when it's the other way around, people say it's the race card and don't take it seriously till it's on their doorstep.
All right, both of you thoroughly enjoyed another rip-roaring head-to-head there. Thank you very much. So that's comedian, GB News presenter Leo Kearse and social commentator Joanna